Welcome to the It Matters podcast. I'm your host, Walter Perez, and let's dive in as we help you grow your mindset and elevate your leadership. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the It Matters podcast. Thanks for joining me on another episode. I am excited for this episode. I have a very special guest, and I'm excited for you to get to know her and just some of the things that I've learned from her. And I think you're in for a treat today. And I have Komal Kumar, a registered psychologist, specializing in trauma and confidence building, which is pretty cool. And then she's also the founder of the South Asian Network Therapy Association, and we'll unpack that a little bit later too. But Kamal, thank you for joining me on the It Matters podcast. What a treat. Welcome here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
Oh, so good. You know, when we met a number of months back and we had a short conversation, you were attending one of my events, and I'm like, no, this is going to be a good fit. We'll have to chat later on. And it took a number of months, but hey, it's okay. We're here now.
Absolutely.
So, one of the things that really kind of got highlighted for me is that you're a registered psychologist, and but you do not only that, you do a bit more. But would love to get to know you a bit more. Tell us a little bit more what you do.
Yeah, so absolutely. So for me, I am a first generation Canadian. I have my parents, they came from the Fiji Islands, but I have roots in India as well. And so also too, I have 3 different degrees. So I have a science degree, an education degree, and a counseling master's.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so education is really important to my family and parents, being immigrant parents. So that was something that was very highlighted and something I pursued. I love in my free time, I love, fitness. I love playing soccer. I've played it my whole life. I'm in a competitive dance group. I started recently taking up a new hobby of pageantry. So that's been really fun and exciting as well. I love my family and friends. I love spending time with them. And I've traveled to almost 30 countries as well. So yeah.
Wow, you're a busy girl.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, that really stuck out to me too when you told me that you had traveled 30 countries, and it's like, what an opportunity. Hey, and we hear that traveling can be an amazing opportunity to learn and grow and experience new things. And how cool is that you've been able to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why I have pursued that, is because I think that learning experience has been way better than any textbook that I've ever learned from, and just kind of seeing how different human beings live in different parts of the world and what they emphasize and what's important to them. But then at the same time, it's like all of us are human beings and we have the same core needs. So I don't know, it's just so interesting to me to see that firsthand.
Wow, that's so good. And just to clarify, because we both live in the same city, so
Mhm.
your practice is in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada,
Yes.
and correct, and that's where you are. That's where you build your business from, and where you work from, right?
Yeah. So as a psychologist, I built a private practice called TriUnity Wellness. So it's been around for about 3 years. So yes, it's located in Edmonton, and I offer online sessions as well.
Oh, that's so cool. So tell me a little bit more, because we've had one of your friends on this podcast before,
Hmm.
who's also a psychologist, Vanessa.
Yeah.
And but tell me a little bit more about how you got into psychology and what pulled you into that. Like, why were you interested specifically in this industry?
Yeah. So just growing up, I was always the friend that everyone would turn to for support. And I loved always helping people. And so when I started my Bachelor of Science degree, my major was in psychology because I just loved understanding people. Like, I always am questioning, why do people do these things? Or, why does that happen? Or why do we as humans do these things? So I'm always wondering, questioning that. And then after my Bachelor of Science degree, I ended up becoming a teacher. I was a science teacher and I taught from grade 6 to 12. And in one of my teaching assignments, I was working in a school that had a very lower socioeconomic status of students. And as a teacher, you get pretty close to your students, right? Like, they come to you, they tell you all about their personal lives. But I remember one time in my classroom, it was like a very sad scene. Like, I had one student who was about to become homeless. Like, there were some issues with their family, so they were not really knowing where that was going to go. I had another student preparing to go to court for some family battles, and they were like 13 years old, and other people were just they were just not well. And I remember looking at my classroom at that time and thinking, like, how are these students supposed to learn math right now when their basic needs and their mental health is suffering? And as a teacher, I felt so helpless because I was like, I don't know how to help them. Like, I don't know what to do here, but they are coming to me for help. So that kind of inspired me to pursue my going into counseling and getting my master's in counseling,
Wow.
because I thought and felt that it would be really great to learn how to help people with their basic
Mm.
emotional needs. Because I think if everyone could have that support, then I feel honestly people could do anything they wanted to do, and they could get through the issues and battles that life is going to throw at them. And that meant a lot to me, to try to help people in that way. So yeah, and it's been a
Mm.
great decision ever since. So
Wow. It's such a beautiful reminder. And I mean, you see this in many other type of leaders and other individuals that pursue great things like you have, that we get impacted. We carry this burden and we're like, I need to do my part. I need to do something about this. And here you go and pursue this. And what a beautiful thing. And, I mentioned in the introduction here that you focus on trauma as well and confidence building. How did that kind of evolve into what you wanted to do?
yeah, so with trauma recovery, so a lot of people I see, and even myself, I've gone through some things in my life that were quite traumatic, and I had the right supports to help me overcome that. And so because I am living proof of those things and seeing how that can help
Mm.
people, because I went through that, I feel it's also important that people who have gone through trauma know that there's a way out. There is an end to it, that they don't have to be stuck in that trauma forever. There are ways to heal and process those things so people can live
Mm.
their best lives. So I think being a person who has experienced traumatic things in the past, and gone through it, and I can just relate more to people who have gone through things, but also can. So I understand when they come in and they're kind of hopeless, they can feel really hopeless that nothing's going to change, things aren't going to get better, but I know it can, and I really do believe that. And I think that having that belief, it helps my clients as well have that belief, and we are able to do that. And again, it's such a beautiful, amazing thing to
Mm.
watch. I know a lot of people, they think of trauma and they're like, oh, that's so scary and sounds so intense. But honestly, for me, watching someone come in from going through something very difficult and transforming, like, to me, it's such a privilege and honor to watch that
Yeah.
transformation in there. So yeah, that's how, I guess, with trauma, um, I've kind of got into that field. But also too, one thing I wanted to add in there
Yeah.
is with trauma. I feel a lot of times when we think of trauma, we think of it as really intense, like, hey, people who went to the military, or maybe somebody who got abused in some way. But
Mm.
honestly, trauma is really anything that makes you stuck in some sort of situation. Like, it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
that intense. So I don't see clients that are all from the military that got abused in some way. It's just something in their life that is holding them back, that there's a barrier. So essentially, it's just something that hasn't been processed. I might even argue that maybe everybody has some sort of trauma to deal with. So I think, and that's where a lot of my sessions lead to. It starts with one thing and then it ends up in trauma recovery, because people didn't really understand how some of their life events have actually caused a huge barrier.
Mm.
So yeah.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because I was actually going to ask you if you thought that we all carry some sort of trauma, and
Mhm.
I would agree with you too. Like I think we do, and maybe the best part about what you're doing with your work is that you're going to help us identify that and realize, hey, like your identity doesn't have to be in this, however big that trauma or small that
Yeah,
trauma was, right? And that we can actually live or step into healing, and my goodness, who knows what we could do once we let that barrier out of the way.
100%, 100%. And so, exactly. So, and that's what I do and teach a lot of my clients, is they think something's happened. They're like, yeah, that was a rough time, but it's not that big of a deal. But I'm like, but actually it is, because look at how it affects you now. And if we could change that, your life, you can live the life that you actually want versus the one
Mm.
that you think you're just supposed to kind of go with in status quo. So
Mm.
yeah.
I've often said on this podcast that asking for help is a sign of wisdom, not a sign of weakness. And
Mhm.
I wanted to say that again because I think you're just hitting on that. Like, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to get somebody to walk along with you and help you maybe see it from another perspective, which is what you do. And then also though, give you the tools to how to break through that.
Right, absolutely, and I love that you said that because I say that to my clients too. A lot of times, first time clients, they can be really hesitant to come, and a lot of people do. There's still a stigma that going to counseling is for the weak. But honestly, I feel, and maybe I'm biased, but I feel you have to be actually very courageous and have to have a lot of strength to come because it's easy to suffer silently by yourself, but it is very difficult to go to someone else and be like, you know what? I've looked at myself. I don't know how to fix this myself. I need to be vulnerable in this situation and I need someone to help me. That is not an easy thing to do. So yeah, I definitely feel counseling is for the strongest people. So
Wow. No, and I appreciate you saying that too, that it's not going to be easy. So we don't have to like, arrive at a certain level in our lives and go, okay, well, now I'm ready to go get help. No, like,
yeah.
do it now. If you're listening to this and you feel like you need it, there's really not much to lose, but a lot to gain in this process of healing. So, so good.
Yeah, and actually, one thing I always say to people too is, mental health, because it does have stigma, because it's hard to see what people are suffering inside. But I always think of it like going to a medical doctor. If a medical doctor told you, "Hey, you have stage 1 cancer," I don't think anyone would be like, "Oh, you know what? I'm just going to wait till it gets to stage 4 to work on this." They're gonna do something now. They're gonna want to prevent it to get worse. And mental health is literally the same thing. When you start noticing things, it's so great to get in to prevent further issues arising as a result. So I encourage, I think everyone should go to counseling at least once, try it out. And even
Mhm.
if it's not pressing issues, I have some clients that come in just to like level up their life. They're like, hey, things are going great, but I want this and I want to pursue these goals and these visions, but I don't know how to like set the structure even. And we're
Wow.
just making them better as people. So
Mm.
yeah.
I love it. So on this podcast, we talk a lot about leadership. And like I believe that everybody's a leader and we just need to grow regardless of what arena you lead in, right? You might be running a business, you might be leading a small little project, or even within your family, you have leadership qualities. And I think what you're hitting on here too is that you're asking all of us to lead ourselves and to take care of ourselves. And
Mhm.
if we're going to impact other people and we're going to do great things in this world, let's make sure that we also are leading ourselves into healthy scenarios, healthy relationships with ourselves, making sure that
Mhm.
we know that we're aiming to be the best that we can be, so then we can give. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think honestly, when you think of our world, we have different types of systems. So, if we can work on ourselves and make ourselves the best in our microsystem like us, we can then expand and give our to our communities and to our
Mm.
macro systems, right? Because then we'll have the energy, we'll have the drive, the input, the everything to kind of give to that. And if we can make our communities better, essentially, we can create, change in the macro system in the world. And we could have such a better world, is what I believe, if everyone was to kind of take charge of that. Because then at the end of the day, there's so many people in this world. And if we all could give and help each other, I just imagine the world being such a better place. So,
Oh man, for sure. Yeah, 100% agree. Hey, I want to back up a little bit because you used the word emotions when you were talking about teaching and please remind me here the verbiage you used because you're talking about uh, handling our emotions, controlling our emotions. Um, we don't talk enough about emotions. I think we do a lot of emotional decision making. We don't realize how big of a part emotions play. And I'm wondering if you can unpack that a little bit because I think there's something for us to catch here and learn.
okay. So, in regards to emotions, it's so interesting because society tries to show this image that we should only pursue happiness and that we should only be happy people and that other emotions are considered negative. But it's really interesting because at the basic human level, all of us have 7 primary emotions that we all will carry. And all of these are used to kind of help and guide us in life and to create decisions for us. So the 7 of them, there's happiness, there's surprise, there's contempt, sadness, fear, disgust, and anger. So out of all of those ones, only there's like one that's more considered a positive emotion, happiness. But when you really think about it, it's like if we have all 7 of these emotions that have functionality, is that realistic to only pursue um,
Mhm.
one emotion? Like that, it's literally an impossible task to do. So one thing that's really important is embracing those other emotions, but not living in them too long, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
for example, if you get angry about something, anger shows up because it's trying to tell you that something in that situation is something you don't like. So you need to do something about that to make that situation better. Like it's not supposed to be a long lasting emotion. It's supposed to motivate and push you to do something else. But embracing it, where a lot of people are like, oh, I feel angry. I'll try to push it away. Or I feel, sad. I'm going to push it away. But it doesn't go away. It'll come back. So it's really important to embrace the emotions and go through them and process them because it'll be there. If you
Mm.
don't.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So, another way of saying this, would it be like when you're encouraging us to embrace it, the thing is not always the thing. There's a thing behind the thing. Is that another way to kind of see this? Maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good way to think of that because yeah, it's not just that surface level. And again, a lot of these feelings can feel uncomfortable and we don't like how that feels in that moment. But if we don't do it, there's something behind that happening that's not going to get resolved if you don't allow for that yourself to feel that way.
Wow. Okay, that's so good. You
Yeah, I
just
hope that
gave
all
us.
makes sense. Yeah.
No, 100% it does, and that's why I wanted you to kind of touch it a bit on it because I think we all need to be challenged to not only maybe understand this, but realize that this is a real thing that we're all facing. We all have it in different ways, and we need to learn how to not only break through this, but embrace, learn from it, and actually go deeper. Because sometimes I feel like there's a lot of surfacey things that we like to participate in, right?
Mm.
And we don't like to connect or go deeper. And the reality is that it's not really helping us or anybody else.
Yeah. Or an example I can give too, sometimes I've seen this with clients. Like I've had some clients, let's say their parent passed away when they were young and they were in a situation where they didn't really get a chance to express their grief or feelings. It was almost like status quo to just kind of keep moving forward. And they were able to do that. But now I'm seeing them maybe 20, 30 years later and all of a sudden they're feeling that grief. They're like, I've never felt this before. And now, holy, like I'm overwhelmed. I'm so sad. So it's inevitable that it's going to show up. It will show up later, but it's just a matter of time and when it will happen. And likely it's going to happen at a time that's inconvenient. So it's
Mm,
better to kind of do it while those things are happening, if that kind of helps to give an example. Like it's not a scientific term, but just like it's delayed grief in that way or delayed emotional processing. So
right, right, right. And so then what I'm hearing here too is that it's never too late. I mean, if we have gone through that delayed grief or delayed emotions, um, deal with it. Like it might have been years ago,
yeah.
decades, but deal with it. If it's coming to the forefront of your mind and your life, it's never too late to begin that process. Would that is that correct?
Absolutely, and being working with a lot of trauma, that's exactly what happens with a lot of people because sorry. For example, if children they go through traumatic things, a lot of times our brain as a child can't really process the things that happen just because it's not developed enough. So it'll kind of wait until you're an adult when your brain is more developed and you can handle a little bit more. So a lot of people are not able to process that young, but they will come decades later to process it because they can and they know this is an impact or they don't might not understand how much impact it has, and that's what we kind of uncover in sessions together. But absolutely, that's a lot of it. It's you can do it anytime, so it's just
Mm,
having the courage to do it.
wow. So good. Okay. Well, I wanted to pivot our conversation a little bit because I think you actually set this up really nicely in something else that I wanted to talk about. And out of the many things that you do and the fun things that you do, one of the things that you pursued in your life was being part of a pageant. And
Woohoo.
more specifically, I know that you were part of the Miss Canada pageant. And I wanted to talk about this, and our audience will understand why. But um, first of all, what in the world inspired you to want to be part of a pageant, and how does that connect to everything else that you've been doing?
Yeah. Okay. So growing up, I always watched on TV. There was the Miss Universe, and so I don't know. I always was just fascinated with seeing the women on there, and a lot of them were always academics as well. They were having bachelor degrees, pursuing higher level education. And for me, I've always been more academic, like being a child of immigrant parents, academics is number one. Like that's the most
Yep.
important thing.
Yep.
But for me, I've always loved, beauty and glam and fashion as well. But that was always a secondary thing for me. But I loved watching the beauty pageants. And so this year, Miss Universe Canada or Miss Universe the organization in general, there was always a limitation on the age limit for how old you could be. But this year they actually removed that. So you could be any age.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I don't know. It came across me on the internet one day and I was just so curious. I was like, what would happen if I applied? Like, I really didn't think anything would happen, but I was like, but I'd rather just kind of know than wonder what would have happened if I did. And I applied. And then shortly after, I got an email. And it was so funny. I missed the email. Like, I just didn't see it. It was in my inbox. And then I was cleaning up my email. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, did I get accepted? And so then after that, if they want to pursue that, then you have to do an interview. And then once your interview is complete, if they accept you, then you're in, and then you just get ready to compete. So yeah. So, and I guess part of the reason why I want to pursue it is just at this time of my life, like I feel the best mentally I've ever had. I feel the best physically I've ever had. My business, it's still a newer business, but it's
Mhm.
more established and I have lots of visions for growth for that. But I wanted to do something new and different for me.
Yep.
And this was a chance to kind of incorporate my academic side and my beauty side together in one and to kind of see how that goes. So,
I love that. And you use the word like wonder. And maybe another word that we can kind of throw in there that comes to mind for me is curiosity. Like, uh, I think sometimes we settle and we kind of go, well, I'm too old, or
mhm.
I don't have the time, or that was an old dream when I was younger, or we can come up with any excuse we want. But I think there's power in wondering and going, what if? Like, what if? And you are an example of taking that what if and then making it a reality, which is pretty cool. So you decide to enter this competition, and I'm assuming it's. Did you find it challenging in some ways? Like, is there in the sense of like starting out? Did you have to go through a like a heavy interview process, or is there kind of how does that process look like?
Yeah, so in the beginning, honestly, it wasn't as challenging as the actual
Okay.
pageant part of it. Then the beginning part, I think again because I was just surprised that I got a call. It was more just like this is a delight for me that and I didn't honestly even after the interview I wasn't really sure if anything was going to happen. So that part actually was not as in, intense as the rest of what I learned in the pageant world because it was like more of a job interview. So
Okay.
um and so but then the pageantry itself is kind of considered a very intense job interview for the Miss Universe position.
Okay.
But yeah, so that was less rigorous than the rest of the pageant.
Okay. No, that's fair. But then you do get into the competition part of it.
Mhm.
I am curious, what surprised you? Uh, it could be good or bad, but what surprised you that you didn't know as you entered this competition?
Yeah. So what surprised me was how rigorous pageantry is and how it's more than just about beauty. So in Miss Universe Canada, there's different areas you get marks on essentially to get a score, and whoever gets the highest score ends up being the winner. So one of the criteria is some philanthropy work. So we were given some charities to choose from, and we had to do some fundraising and awareness campaigns for that. This is the first time I ever did that.
Okay.
And it was actually so it was a lot of work to kind of create these fundraising events, but honestly, it was so rewarding too. And to see like the communities around me and people, my friends and family, and or even just strangers who came together to
Mm,
support the cause was just so inspiring to me. Because I don't know, you just don't really think that would happen, I guess. or people you just don't expect to help out were helping out in all different ways. Like people were helping, like for example, I'm a dancer, my dance studio and my old dance studio, they provided me the space, they sponsored the space to help me, and they ran workshops for me. And I was, I was so honored, and I just felt the kindness was insane to have
Wow.
for their support. The charity I was supporting was SOS Children's Village. So these were for children who basically are abandoned and don't have a lot of support
Mm.
from their parents for just multiple reasons. And so it's trying to help those children out. And so, yeah, so I guess that was a very positive surprise in this. But again, so that was great in the sense of people coming together to support a good cause, but it was also a lot of work. And also another thing during the pageant, what surprised me, okay, this is the first time I've ever done a pageant. I've never been into fashion beauty world at all. And so kind of maybe a stereotype I had of pageantry is like maybe the girls will be, kind of mean or catty or something. But that was not the case at all. Everyone was such a gem. And as a business owner, that was maybe the best part of this whole pageant for me
Okay.
is all the women were very established. A lot of them were business women. And I felt like it was almost a big networking
Wow.
event. And I have amazing connections all across Canada with really successful, driven women. And so, yeah, that was surprising to me in that way that I would get that out of this pageant. So,
Oh, that's so cool. I love that. I love that, when you pull back the curtain, that there's actually more to that. And I mean, we can all probably make up our own ideas on what we thought it was like
mhm,
or whatever, but that's so cool, the experience that you had. And I mean, I know that you worked really hard and there's a physical aspect to it,
mhm.
which is kind of neat to know because with your the fun things that you've done with soccer, cheerleading, dancing, I'm assuming that probably helped you in a lot of ways, hey, to be prepared for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I do a lot of those activities. Okay, so I don't love cardio. So so I'm like, but it's important to have that in life. So I really try to find things that help. And going to dance, for example. So I'm in a group dance where we compete and everything. But so it's for me, we meet together once a week, we build our choreo together. But to me, sometimes, I'm tired. I don't want to go, but I always will go because I'm like, this is a
Mm,
team. They're relying on me, and I will get my cardio no matter what this week, because this is not just about me in this situation. And then it's fun. Like when I'm there, I'm having a blast.
right.
But those are the things, because again, I wasn't ever, I never thought I'd be in a pageant. These are my hobbies. These are the things I did already. So those things were already preparing me, because
Yeah.
I got in better physical shape, and I do go to the gym and everything too. But when the pageant happened, I stayed more committed, like in the sense
Mm,
going to the gym. Sometimes, if I'm really tired, maybe I don't go, but I was like, no, I need to go. And that's been an amazing also outcome of that, because I'm like, I feel like I'm in the best shape of my life right now. And but I was already working towards those things pre-pageantry. That just almost like intensified it, if that makes sense.
yeah, and not only intensified it, but like it was like you had a goal now.
Yeah.
You had this thing that you wanted to reach for, and yeah, that's so cool. Which it just goes to show you the importance of us having some vision and some goals and things that we want to aim for. Uh, yeah, it's important for us to have that in life, and that's a cool example.
Yeah.
So tell me here, because there's some things that you were kind of, I think, natural at. You were able to kind of step into it. But what did you find challenging? Like, was there something that kind of says, "Oh my goodness, this is taking me overboard, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this." Like, was there something like that?
Yeah. Okay. So for the pageant, how I prepared for it, I ended up getting a pageant coach. So she was Miss Universe Canada 2023. Her name's Madison Cavalton. She's a gem. She's amazing. And I pursued her as my coach, because I was like, the person who won the competition last year, who else better to coach you than the person who won?
Mhm.
So she prepared me very well. Because I told her, I was like, I know zero about pageantry. You need to teach me everything, because I don't know what I'm walking into. And she did. She taught me everything really well. However, when I got to pageant week, um, even though she prepared me as best as she could, I couldn't be prepared for what the week would actually be like. This is something that someone can't teach you. It's
Hmm.
something you have to kind of go through. So for me, being a psychologist, I talk to people all day. I feel like I'm pretty okay with my talking skills, with my fundraising skills. Those were the things prior to do in preparation for that. But part of the pageantry as well is your runway and your fashion and your gowns. So even though my coach prepared me, when I went there, I trained a little bit with my coach online. We did some walking and stuff. But when I got there, I was like, wow, some of these girls have been doing this for 6 years and they've been
Okay.
preparing for this competition specifically. So that, I guess I didn't realize how intense people take this and how dedicated they are. For me, I was like, yes, before going, I was like, I've practiced for 3 months. That's a long time, right? No, like these girls have
Wow.
been doing it for 6, 7, 20 years, some of them.
Wow.
So I was so I found the runway part for me the hardest because I've never done that before. This is my first time going on a stage and doing that. I guess with dancing kind of helped me to have some stage presence because we do compete. So that again was the preparation that wasn't intended to be preparation for that. But there's a certain walk and a certain stance that I had no idea about beforehand. So that was the hardest. It was still fun. I still had a good time trying it out, but I probably wasn't the strongest one of that. So
Wow, hey. But I mean, that's the cool thing about this though. Like it challenged you, it kind of took you to new levels. You discovered that you could do things that you hadn't tried before. But good on you though. Like, yeah, maybe you were preparing for it for 3 months, but you were committed and if you didn't tell people, you probably competed at the same level as everybody else. So I love that. I love the commitment part of it. And one can probably make an argument though that you probably been preparing for this all your life with different things that you've done with
yeah.
your business and everything else that you've done. And so I think we need to give you some credit there for sure.
No, absolutely. I do agree with that because even though this was my first pageantry, I feel how I live my life, a lot of things had set me up, I feel, to be prepared for that. Versus if I had done this 10, 15 years ago, I don't think like I wouldn't have had enough life experience. Everything would have been really scary and not fun where I'm like, oh, well, I've done dance. I've been on a stage. I know how to have stage presence. Like I know how to do interviews. I've done many interviews at this point in my life. You know what I mean? There's things that
Mm.
you're right. There was other preparation, but not intentional towards the pageant. So thank you for saying that.
No, for sure. Okay, so we're gonna get a little vulnerable here
Okay.
because the results that you got out of this weren't in your favor,
Mhm.
and I'd love to chat a little bit about that because I'm very interested to hear how you navigated through and tell us as much as you'd like or as little as you'd like. But um, what ended up happening when in this competition?
Yeah, I guess in this competition, so I guess it depends what you define as things didn't go in your favor. Because for me, so I didn't end up winning. And the winner, her name is Ashley Colleen Bull. She's from Alberta. She is amazing and has been in pageantry for many years. And she's a great representative for us. But so I didn't end up winning it, but I feel like I did win in a lot of other ways. So so I was not sad or upset at all for winning. For me, this was a huge new challenge for me. I felt just honored being there.
Hmm.
To be even considered to be part of the pageant was huge for me because again, it's something I never even thought I would ever be a part of. Yeah, and meeting the incredible women. And again, a lot of the women, because they knew I was new, they were so helpful. They were teaching me, they're like, hey, this is how you walk. This is the kind of outfits you should have. And these are the things to how to get through the week. And so I learned so much from those people. So again, yeah, it didn't go in my favor of winning. I would have been shocked if I won, honestly. That would have been crazy.
Okay.
But that was not what I was there for. It was for the experience of that and to network, really, right? Being a business owner, I want to meet other
Yeah.
people. But also, a big part of that too, because I learned so much. Again, my pageant coach, she helped me so much to learn, but I was like, okay, like now being a part of this, I understand. I think I have a better understanding of what the areas I needed to improve in. So after that pageant, I ended up getting recruited to another pageant in Canada called Galaxy Pageants.
Okay.
And at first I was a little like, I don't know if I really want to, but then I was like, you know what? I feel like I learned so much from Miss Universe Canada that I want to give this another go for a different pageant and see if I can apply that learning. So I went into that. That actually happened about not this weekend, but the weekend before. It was in Toronto. I flew out to Toronto. I was really chill this time because I felt I knew what to expect a little bit more. I feel like my outfits were better. I feel like I planned a lot better. And, I was hoping to maybe make it to the top 5, but I ended up being the first runner up, which was also very shocking and surprising. I did not expect that at all. But the thing I'm most proud of in that situation, there was awards for some of the categories. So I ended up getting the award for the best interview. So I was very, very happy with that. Again, I wasn't expecting that. So maybe
Yeah.
this was all, amazing because I had very low expectations, but I think it's really important to me. I'd rather be known for how I can communicate and talk to people than what I look like and present myself. So I took whatever I learned from there and applied it, and I got better. So I feel like I won in that.
You took what you learned from that and you applied it and got better. Like,
Mhm.
what a beautiful line, because how many of us get stunted by failure, quote unquote, or whatever we want to associate with that. And we think, well, it didn't go my way, or that's not what I wanted. But here you took that, and it was so much more than just the finish line for you, which is really a beautiful thing. And here you take that as an opportunity to learn, to connect, meet people, and coming out of that, you get another opportunity. And congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
And here you are, still pursuing this in a different way. But uh, just what a reminder for all of us, that failure does not have to be fatal. It doesn't have to be the end. And however we define that, that we can continue to learn and grow, which I think it's becoming your friend right now, because you are getting better. And so
Mhm.
that's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And even in this one, I only lost by 1.37 points, I think, out of 100. So it was very, very close.
Wow.
But again, to me, I was just like, wow, I'm just excited that what I thought I needed to improve in, I was able to do that. And absolutely, it's not about failing. I think if you think that you're a failure, you can get stuck on that and you do not pursue your goals. But it's about, hey, that didn't maybe work out in my favor. What did I learn from that? And how do I apply that to become better? And yeah, it was really fun this time for me too. So
I love the way you think. I love the way you present yourself and how you process all this. Do we have to give credit to your education and even with the what you do for a living? I mean, you've been in a spot where you're helping others walk through some different challenges, encouraging them, building them up. And here you enter a pageant, and now you basically have to practice what you preach. And would you agree that you had to take a lot of these different things throughout the years that you've learned to go, okay, I know this, I need to apply this?
absolutely. So my profession is, definitely a huge credit to that. Because, okay, one of my philosophies in my own practice is that I need to be a good role model. So I have to do the things that I tell my clients. So anything I tell my clients, it is something that I do as well. Because I can't sit there and be a hypocrite and tell them go exercise and go pursue hobbies and get enough sleep and eat healthy if I'm not doing that. Like I'm like, how can I tell someone those things if I'm not practicing
Mm,
that? So, and also too, so part of just kind of going a little off track, but my business, TriUnity Wellness, a
yeah.
lot of counseling private practices, they call themselves blank psychological, which is totally fine. But for me, why I chose not to do that is because I think it's important to be balanced in all areas of life. So there's the mental, there's the physical, there's the spiritual, there's the social, financial. To me, I think you have to intentionally uh, try to be well in all those areas in order to get to your best self. And a lot of times, I feel like when I see like social media or things, a lot of times there's a lot of focus on physical fitness, but it's like if you only work out and don't do anything else in the other areas, you're not going to be your best self. Maybe you have 100% physical fitness, but maybe your mental health is at 20%. Maybe
Mm.
your social health is 10%. That's not a good balance in life. So for me, so part of why I pursue so many different things and try having these challenges, even though I don't tell my clients this, I don't tell them, hey, I went to a pageant and did all this stuff. But for me, it's important to have that integrity to be like, if I'm going to say this is what's going to make them better, I also have to live that life. So yeah. So one part of that is psychology and what I've learned in my education and how that helps people. Yeah, so that's been a huge inspiration for that.
Well, I love that you have that core value of integrity, though, because we can easily get caught up in that whole saying, right? Do what I say, not what I do.
Right. Yeah.
And the cool thing about when and we practice integrity and we're not even telling people what we're doing in the private, it does come out in the way we teach, coach, present ourselves, the way we walk with people. People know, like it's interesting, right? Like the those core values do roll they come out of us, and people connect with us at a different level because they can feel they can trust us, they know you're
Mhm.
honest, and they know you're for real.
Yeah, absolutely. Or if it ever needed to, like if someone was like, hey, I'd want to work out, but I can't because I'm working full time and I can't have hobbies and I can't see my family and friends. Like it's not easy to do all those things, but it's about being intentional. And like what you said earlier too, it's about having the vision of what you want in your life. And for me, I want to be the best version of myself. So I have to be intentional and I have to prioritize those things. So to me, it's anyone said that that's impossible to do, I can say it's not.
Right.
Like I do it. So if I can do it, you can do it too. But it might take some time and take some steps, but it's not impossible. So
Exactly. So you've eliminated excuses, if that is a potential thing. But yeah, you're an example. And I mean, somebody might be able to do it differently, but you
Mhm.
are proof that you can try new things, you can do new things, like you can accomplish different things. So yeah, I love how you can be that example that way. That's such a great point.
Yeah. And one thing else to add to answer your previous question is I
Mhm.
want to give credit to my parents as well. So
Mm.
I think being immigrant parents, and, my parents didn't come from a lot from Fiji, and they were able to build their successes here in Canada to pursue a better life. But my parents fundamentally, they haven't changed. Like my dad, he's so silly. Like honestly, so whatever coat is in, this is such a silly thing to say, but okay, whatever coat is in the closet, like I literally have a jacket, like a pink jacket from grade 5 in my parents' closet. He doesn't care. He's like, a coat is a coat. He will grab that jacket, put it on, and he will leave out the door. He's like stolen my mom's jacket so many times, and she's like yelling after him, like, hey, why are you taking my jacket? And he's like, oh, it's just the first thing I saw. And he has the means to
Mhm.
buy better jackets, but he hasn't changed fundamentally. He was like, well, a coat is a coat. It keeps me warm for whatever. He's like, a car is a car. I just gets me from point A to B. I don't need a fancy car. So they're very humble. And I think it's just, yeah, maybe, growing up in a different country. And it just, yeah, it helps me. And so my dad always wanted to pursue just be the best you can, because so you can have a good life. Like it doesn't, and good life doesn't mean materialistic things. It's about enjoying the things in your life and spending time with your family and friends. So I think he
Mhm.
always encouraged me to always just keep trying and doing things. So I also want to give credit to them. So yeah.
No, I appreciate you did that. I think that's a great reminder, because our parents are sometimes the greatest cheerleaders
Yeah.
we have in the back corner, and yeah, the what you have accomplished today has been built on their accomplishments and their encouragement, their humility, as you mentioned, and I think that's a great reminder for us to be looking back and going, no, I'm not self-made here. That's
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that have taken place in my life that made me arrive to where I'm at, right?
Absolutely. And like even that reminds me of an example. I remember in grade 3, I was struggling with long division. I remember I like could not get it. And I would go to my dad and I'd be like, I can't get it. And I remember one time I started crying because I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't get it. But I remember at that time, and it really always stuck with me. He's like, why are you saying that? He's like, why are you saying you can't do it? Like you can do anything that you want to do in your life. And I remember there was a switch there for me at that time, that moment. And I think then always having
Hmm.
that belief, like someone else, like my parent, having that belief that you can do whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks. And I think that's just been instilled in me now that I'm like, yeah, like people, even pageantry, for example, people are like, oh yeah, they like, this is kind of random and interesting, but I'm like, yeah, but I don't care. Like, I want to try it. Like, I don't care what anyone thinks. I'm going to do it because I'm interested in it. And I believe in myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's another little story that came up.
I love it. I love it. You don't have to get stuck in a box and that this is the only way to
Mhm.
do certain things. Like try new things. Like you just never know, right? I'm a huge, we'll say, advocate of telling people that we need to not only tap into our potential but maximize our potential. And our potential, the funny thing about it is you don't ever know what that potential truly is until you start pursuing, and then now you have new levels to reach. So this life of pursuit that will take us who knows where, really.
Exactly. So that's the part that I get curious about. It's like, where will this go? So
So good. So tell me, both of these pageants that you competed in are pretty high level
mhm.
competitions. I mean, as you've already mentioned, it took a lot out of you. You had to contribute, believe in yourself, and all that. Were there some mindset practices or constructs that helped you that you would um, you would share with us that could potentially help us, all of us, apply into whatever arena we lead in?
Yeah, so I think a big thing it is about your own confidence and believing in yourself is a huge thing. And one thing, sorry, I didn't really answer a question you asked about confidence earlier. But one of the reasons why I'm going to kind of answer both those questions with this, but one of the reasons why I focus on confidence building as people is because it's one of the biggest things, the issues I see with people is people just do not have belief in themselves that they can do anything. And a lot of times it's negative thoughts that become a barrier. They're just like, oh, other people are better than me, or someone's going to think I'm stupid if I do this. And that's common. Like I've seen that in my entire counseling history with many clients. So to me, I'm like, there are ways you can kind of work and challenge those negative beliefs. Like the idea of like, oh, what if someone thinks I'm stupid? So it's like, well, so what? So what if they do? Then
Right.
that doesn't mean anything, right? So, but learning to interject, where a lot of people just stop at that first part, that like, I'm just scared of someone's opinion. But if they go through that, it's like, it really doesn't matter. So part of those mental cons, so that's kind of why I focus on confidence building, because I think everyone could benefit from that. And, I feel like a confident person, but of course, I think I can improve as well. But the biggest mental constructs I had during the pageant or for the pageant was that preparation. Because for me, it was like, okay, I got a pageant coach, I got a fitness coach. So to me, I was like, I'm not going in this blindly. I'm doing what I can do to prepare myself the best I can. And as I mentioned, going to the pageant, it was like, whoa, this is like way more intense than I thought. But part of me was like, it's okay, because I came into this the best prepared that I could have been. I couldn't have been more prepared. So I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of my growth. And having that self compassion, like that good, positive talk to yourself, is so critical, I think, in anything that is high stakes, because as soon as you start being a bully to yourself, like, and usually a lot of times we are most critical to ourselves, if we do that, then that just brings us right down. But it's like, why do that to ourselves? You have to stay strong and just even if, okay, say even in this situation, I didn't prepare the best I could only give 70% of the best I could, but
Yep.
that's still all I could have done, and there's no point of beating myself up about it, because it doesn't change anything. It doesn't add any value. So I think a huge mental construct is having that self-compassion and trying to have your preparation the best to your ability, and being okay with that was huge for me. And also too, even this might seem so simple, but it's really taking care of your basic needs. So every day was a very intense day, like 6 a.m., straight 12, 15-hour days we had there. But
Right.
it was like, make sure to get as much sleep as I can, make sure to be taking my vitamins, make sure to keep my body well, because if I keep my body well and my sleep and nutrition okay, the mental part gets a little easier too. So those would be the big things, I think. So
So good. Wondering, do you think that the mind games we play and the work we do mentally, is that half the battle? Is that like a big chunk of the battle? Like, what do you think?
yeah, like, as in my line of work, that is the battle with that most
Okay.
people have, right? So 100%. So, and that's why if I think a person, if they can pursue learning how to challenge that thinking,
Mm.
then there really isn't a battle. So, okay, so
Hmm.
for example, some of the other girls in the Miss Universe Canada competition that were newer, like also like a rookie like me, some people, when it got to the stage, they were unable to do the stage. They kind of had a panic attack. They had a bit of a meltdown. Everything was becoming a big issue for them. And, I feel for them, because, to me, it's the mental game of them being like, oh no, what if I don't know what I'm doing? Where when I was backstage, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but that's okay. Like I'm trying something new, and I'm going to give it my all. And that's all I can do in this moment. And it doesn't matter. I'm never going to see these people again. It's fine, so like to me, I could keep a calm demeanor. And actually one of the other contestants, she was kind of panicking all over the place. And like there was a few things that happened. Like she had steamed something, and she like burned one of her clothes like a little bit. It just kind of got together. And then she's like, oh my gosh, I ruined my outfit. She's like, should I steam the other side? Should I burn it? And I was like, hey, it's okay. Like no one's going to notice, you're on stage. And then her eyeliner wasn't working. She's like, oh my gosh, my eyeliner, I can't get it to work. And I was like, it's okay. You can just borrow this one. And she's like, how are you so calm? Like, she's like, you're really like, you're bringing a really good presence to me. Cause she's like, I keep going big and you keep saying it's not a big deal. Like just, keep going with it. But I think, yeah. So kind of answering your question. Yeah, I think the battle is mental, because if we can perceive things that are not as big as we think they are in our head, then we can stay actually calm about it, and things get a little bit easier. So yeah, but that's a ton of what I see in counseling too. So,
I remember you mentioning to me in a conversation you and I had prior to this episode that one of the things that this competition did is you were able to be there for others.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I mean, you just gave us a great example. But how cool is that? That it's not just about the competition. It's not just about the end result. There's way more. And we've already kind of talked about that. But I love how you were able to be there present, and with your expertise and the things that you've worked on, that you're able to encourage. And indirectly out of the office, you were helping people. And how cool is that?
Yeah, no, and actually that reminds me of the recent pageant I did. So the pageant I did recently, Galaxy Canada pageant, there's all age ranges. Like it's from kids, like there's kid categories as well. And so backstage at one point, there was a child, she messed up her walk. So she came back crying. She was very upset. Her breathing was very intense. And another contestant went up to her. She's like, it's okay. Don't worry. No one cared about that. Just let it go. But like, when I saw that, I was like, I know that person's trying to be helpful, but that is not what that person is needing right now. So I was like, hey, like, can we play a game? And then I did a quick grounding technique with that person. They stopped crying. I was like, how are you feeling at the end of it? They're like, better. And I'm like, yeah, see, it's okay. Like you can just it was distraction. Like basically what I did was distract her in that moment to kind of get her out of her head, essentially. Yeah. And when she got out of her head, then she was able to stay calm. So it was very, in those situations, a lot of people don't know what to do to help people. So yeah, that was really nice to be able to see what's happening and kind of just interject really quickly. So then they have a good experience with this too. So
that's so good. The cool part about it, having all these experiences now, that adds to your tool belt, if I can put it that way. And you've already mentioned that this made you better in so many different ways, but how cool is that you can now bring that into your daily work and anything else that you're going to do in the future. It truly has been a positive experience, correct?
Absolutely. Like again, as maybe silly as it might feel because of what maybe pageantry used to be in the past, it was such women empowerment in so many different avenues, and just getting to meet so many people and having to get out of my own comfort zone and talk to people. Like I didn't know anybody going into these things, and making friends and supporting each other has been just, absolutely incredible. And those are some lessons I'm carrying into my business and into my day-to-day life as well.
That's so good. Hey, I want to do a bit of a pivot, because you have some things dear to your heart, some causes potentially, and I believe that the South Asian Network Therapy Association kind of fits into this. Tell us a bit more about these things that you're working on as well, that are part of everything else that you're doing.
Yeah, so the South Asian Network Therapy Association, I had founded that because basically it's not just South Asians, but I'm just pursuing that first because I am South Asian.
Yeah.
But basically I feel lots of cultural groups, it's very difficult to pursue counseling because there's so much stigma for lots of cultural groups, like especially like mental health terms in lots of different languages. There's not terms like in my language and culture, there's not a term for depression, right? Like it's not recognized. in those ways. So, and also too, I guess part of the backstory. And so I went to my first counselor when I was 18 years old. I was kind of going through some stuff in life, and she was a great counselor, don't get me wrong, but she wasn't culturally informed. And so I was having some things with my family, and she would just tell me, she's like, "Well, just stand up for yourself. Just tell your, parents no, or you're going to do what you want." But I remember at that point, she had really lost me because I'm like, "You can't do that. Like, that's not how these work in
Mm,
cultural family. You can't just do what you want. Like, that's not the how it's a collective society. We do not work in that way."
yeah.
And so I remember when I would try to get support in family aspects, I just I was like, she doesn't understand. And then I kind of stopped seeing her after that because I was like, she can no longer help me because she can't get it. And I don't want to sit here and have to educate her
Right.
on that. So I've worked with international students. I've worked at post secondaries for the past 9 years.
Mm,
So I've seen a lot of international students, and kind of the same issues with that come up. It takes a really long time um, to pursue counseling because of the stigma. So, and also too, even for myself, there's not a ton of South Asian people who are psychologists. There's not. So for me, I wanted to kind of create visibility. Like there are some,
mm,
but people don't know about that. And I actually get a lot of clients who are South Asian, and this is the one, like, being a minority person of visible color, I don't love being stereotyped, but this is the one time in my life that I'm like, finally, this is coming in my favor because people, they are like, "Hey, I saw you're brown and I wanted to book you because you're going to
right.
get it." And,
Right.
before even talking to me, which I feel like I do, but they already feel that connection
Yeah.
before even meeting. And they do, they say that it's a better experience because they don't have to explain anything
Mm,
to me. So for me, creating that South Asian Network Therapy Association is to help other people who don't feel like someone's going to get it. Just trying to make a easy way to access therapists and to know that we are around, that there are people that there are South Asian
mm,
psychologists out there that do understand culturally the cultural backgrounds of things to make therapy a little bit more accessible.
yeah.
And my dream is like starting it with South Asian community, but I would love this for every community essentially. Because I think, again, working with so many different international students over time, this is a barrier in many different cultures. So,
Mm.
but yes, I'm hoping this can be almost a pilot and can pursue that into other areas as well.
I love it. I love it. I think you're reminding us of the importance of, like, we get a platform. All of us have a unique platform, potentially because of our background, our experiences, the things we've gone through, and we just need to pay attention to that. And I mean, it really shows in what you just shared. Your heart is big on all that, and I think you're going to do great at it. I think you're going to succeed, and keep at it because we need that, and I think it's so cool, very cool.
Thank you so much.
Hmm. So, to me, in this conversation and the things that you are doing, you have done, to me, it's evident that you're a natural leader. And I know there's probably a lot of different things that have, or people that have contributed to that. And I'm wondering, is there an advice that has been given to you, leadership wise, that you hold true to, that you think about, that you could share with us and add value to our audience?
Okay, so some of the best leadership advice I've been given, it's not something that has been directly spoken to me. It's about the things that I've seen with leaders that I really appreciate and thrive to also be
Hmm.
like them as well. And one of the biggest things is that they practice essentially what they preach and that they act in the way that they want you to be. So things that are important, I think important characteristics to have as a leader is to be transparent and to show respect, to be collaborative, work together. Because sometimes as a leader, especially they're not as hands-on with everything going on. So whoever is in the main role of an expertise, like, listen to them, like, trust in the people
Mm,
that you work with because that's what they're there for. That's what they were hired for. They are there because they have that, and that the leader is not all knowing, that they are coming from a place of humility and not acting as if they
mm,
know everything. So I think walking that talk is really important, and I think that that creates commitment versus compliance essentially from people. And that's important to me, is like not having people just being in that role because they, they feel there's fear, they're scared. I would rather have people who can come to you and be honest about things, because then you can improve the business. And if people, rather than people being scared of saying things. So.
Okay. I love that. I think you just gave us some gold, and I love how you you describe that. So good. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. So I have a question that I like to ask everybody, and it's because you're on the It Matters podcast, and
Yeah.
so I want to know what matters to you right now in the season of life you're in. You might have already kind of shared it, but I just want to be make sure we don't miss it. So, what matters to you right now?
I think what matters most to me right now, it kind of comes from seeing my counseling patients, is that there is such little compassion. I feel self-compassion people have. And so I think it's really important to have that kindness to yourself. A lot of times people have kindness to others, and but they don't reciprocate that back to themselves. And that's the one thing I think really matters, and something I'm going to pursue to try to help people to learn to have that self-compassion. But being understanding and forgiving of yourself, being accepting of yourself as a person, not having to live in a standard that is curated from society that actually really doesn't matter for a lot of things. So yeah, I think just learning to be self-compassionate. And but I think a big way to do that is by being a role model, is doing that yourself, and others can learn from that too. So yeah, that's a big thing for me right now.
Oh, love it. Love it. Okay. This has been a great conversation. This has been awesome. I appreciate you very much. But I want to make sure that anybody listening, watching this, our audience, if they want to connect with you, I want to make sure they have that opportunity. So how could they find you? Where can they find you? How can they connect with you?
Yeah. And so I do have a scheduling website that people can book a consult if they'd like. I do have a website under development right now, so that will be launching very soon. So then people can contact me through there as well.
Okay. So we'll make sure to put all this in the show notes, so then they have it, they can track it down. No problem at all. Do you have an Instagram page, some social medias as well that?
Yeah, I do right now. That is also going under a revamp with a website, a new website development. I have a new image that I'm trying to create. So,
I love it. Yeah. What we'll do is we'll update it as necessary on our show notes, and then people can go to the right pages, the right social media, and we don't have to worry about that. Amazing. Because I think I want to make sure if anybody wants to connect with you. But on that note, if you have questions, if you have thoughts, comments about what we talked about today, put them in the comments, and I will make sure that Komal gets it, and that she can respond to those. But let us know, and even maybe just as important, share this episode. There's somebody out there in your life that needs to hear this, and we would love it if you would pass on the wisdom that Komal brought to us today. So please do that. We would love for you to do that. But Komal, this has been a pleasure. Yes, thank you so much. And I'm glad that you were able to make it on.
Yes, thank you so much.
Of course. But for all of you out there, thanks again for joining us. And as we love to say around here, it is a win-win when the leader leads well. So take this and go apply it and grow with it. And we'll catch you on the next time. Bye for now.